Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to week number 15, recorded lecture number 40. Well, in this lecture, we are going to have a look at another case study. We have already seen one in the last recorded lecture, and we will solve this case study, apply ethical theories, logic from the case, and uh, PEC code of conduct. So, let's begin with the case study. Okay, so uh, case study for today is public letter of criticism. Well, first I'll read the whole case so that we can go for important points in this case. Well, a small town hired engineer a consulting mechanical engineer, to design a water system that would replace their small public utility system fed from several wells with water of a doubtful quality. Engineer A proposed to pump water from a nearby river that had an adequate flow all year but was subject to intermittent ice jams that on the average stopped the flow of about 6 to 12 hours once each winter. The engineer A, she proposed to overcome this stoppage by constructing a small reservoir which pumps would keep filled. The reservoir had a volume equal to 48 hours consumption. The electric power lines serving the area were subject to icing and power failures, which occurred on the average for about 12 hours per year. Engineer A proposed to maintain power by installing a standby diesel generator in the pump house so that when a line power was lost, the generator would power the pumps. She presented the concept to the municipal council, and the daily newspaper reported the story. Well, on reading the newspaper story, engineer B, a chemical engineer with no water supply experience, concluded that engineer A was putting the taxpayers, including him, to unnecessary expense by installing the standby pumps. Engineer B reasoned that the 48 hours supply in the reservoir would be more adequate to take care of both ice dams in the river and the power supply failure. Even if both occurred simultaneously. Without getting in contact with engineer A, he means engineer B, he immediately wrote a stinging letter to the municipal council with a copy to the newspaper, identifying himself as a professional engineer and criticizing what he called unnecessary and expensive duplication. The letter closed with a flippant comment questioning either A's honesty or competence. The municipal council discussed the letter, and since a qualified engineer wrote it, the council concluded it would be politically unwise to ignore it. The council voted to ask Engineer A to respond in writing to Engineer B's allegations. Engineer A was surprised at this request from the council but felt obliged to honor it. She dropped all other tasks and summarized her calculations in a report which she had printed and bound. She then returned to the municipal council the following week and explained her reliability calculations, which confirmed the configurations that she was recommending. She further explained that while the newspaper story quoted average values, her calculations required worst case probabilities. Moreover, the local hospital depended on the water supply and required higher reliability. In addition, it was indeed statistically probable that ice jams, and power failures would occur simultaneously. Other pumping or piping components might also fail and prolong a water storage, or the ice cover on the reservoir might limit the flow available. Moreover, the proposal included a contingency for town expansion during the next 40 years. It soon became clear that Engineer A's proposal was a very reasonable solution to the problem. Engineer A calculated her additional time and report preparation cost at about $5,000. While she expected her design to undergo public scrutiny, she did not expect an uninformed attack from a fellow engineer. She knew that the code of ethics required public opinion to be founded upon adequate knowledge and honest conviction. So she called the Provincial Association to ask whether such thoughtless public criticism from Engineer B was unprofessional conduct. Now, as we have gone through the whole case study, now we are moving towards its solution. So the question that we have is, was Engineer B guilty of unprofessional conduct. Well, to answer this question, we need support, number one, from this case study, from ethical theories, from PC code, and from IEEE code, because we have covered all these three topics: ethical theories, PC code, and IEEE code. So we can easily bring support from there. And as far as support from case study is concerned, of course we are going to uh, note down, or rather discuss, important points from the case that will actually help us reach the right decision of this case study. Now, first let us see engineer A's solution, then we will also see engineer B's solution. Well, engineer A's solution, number one, engineer A was a consulting mechanical engineer. So we need to keep in mind, already practicing and consulting mechanical engineer, right? It means she had been providing consultations for a similar project and had an experience in the field. So this is number one about engineer A. Number two, engineer A's reliability calculations, which confirmed the configuration that she was recommending. So again, this goes in favor of engineer A, that the calculations that she performed that confirmed the configuration that she suggested, that she initially recommended to the to the municipal council, and of course that was covered and published in the newspaper. Number three, engineer A explained that while the newspaper story quoted average values, her calculations required worst case scenario. Now she very clearly is able to support her point of view that she had a detailed understanding of the project as compared to uh, the news story that was written by engineer B. So she says, well, she had complete understanding, and the project she was working on, and the proposal that she made, that included the worst scenarios, because the case also includes instance of a hospital where maybe power failure can be harmful for the patients and may even take someone's life. So engineer A calculated the cost keeping the worst scenarios, right? Whereas engineer B, who did not have in-depth understanding, based his calculations on averages only, and in worst scenarios, such calculations on the basis of average can be too dangerous. Okay, so moving ahead with the solution of engineer A, the next point, number 4, the local hospital depended on the water supply and required higher reliability, as pointed out in the previous slide as well, that When it comes to hospital, higher reliability is considered. You know, experts cannot rely on average reliability for uh, sensitive institutions like hospitals. So high reliability is needed. That's why engineer A provided that diesel generator backup. Well, in addition, it was indeed statistically probable that the ice jams and power failures would occur simultaneously. So, in case if they occur simultaneously, then you know, having a backup was unavoidable. So, uh, keeping both things together, uh, engineer A provided the solution of mm, generator backup as well. Okay, number 6, other pumping or piping components might also fail and prolong a water shortage, or the ice cover on the reservoir might limit the flow available. So these were extra elements that needed to be covered while going for the worst case scenario, that it was not only the above mentioned points but also the pumping and piping components, they might fail sometimes, and the water shortage can be prolonged. It can take longer, and ultimately it can create problems. So uh, that needed to be kept in mind. And on the reservoir, when it's too cold, if the icing covers reservoir for a longer period, that could also have made the situation worse. Well, point number 7, the proposal included a contingency plan for town expansion during the next 40 years. Of course, when such projects are developed, they are not developed for 6 months or for a year, because usually long term planning is kept in mind. So, very rightly, being an experienced and logical engineer, competent engineer, engineer A, having the futuristic vision, also calculated next 40 years. It soon became clear that engineer A's proposal was very reasonable solution to the problem. As we have also seen these 7 points, almost all of them made sense. They were reasonable, and they are enough evidence to prove that actually engineer A, you know, she had valid reasons to propose generator backup. Now let's move towards engineer B's objection. The first one, like point number 9, but on the part of engineer B, it's number 1. On reading the newspaper story, engineer B, a chemical engineer with no water supply experience. This very first point, you know, reveals many things about uh, immaturity of engineer B. Number 1, engineer B considered newspaper story enough. Of course, a newspaper story is not written for technical professionals like engineers. That was not a technical report. Newspaper story is written usually for common readers, just to inform them about developments in a particular project. So the first mistake on the part of engineer B was taking newspaper story as if it were some technical document. Secondly, engineer B was a chemical engineer. Apparently, you know, not having any such direct connection with the project according to the field, and with no water supply experience. These are three major flaws, I must say. That first, trusting newspaper story as if it were a technical piece of writing or a project report. Second, something that's not directly related to your field, likely, you know, people are likely to have lesser understanding. And third thing, without any experience in that particular area, criticizing a project without even knowing who the project made. Maybe the person is much more experienced and all that. So these are objections for engineer B. Now the next, he concludes that engineer A was putting the taxpayer to unnecessary expense by installing the standby pumps. So the objection engineer B raises was that installing standby pumps. According to engineer B, that installing standby pumps was unnecessary, they were not required, and that was an unnecessary expense, of course, because that was the municipal corporation would be paying, so it means that was taxpayers money, public money, including of course engineer B was also a taxpayer, so including his tax paying money. But as we have seen while discussing engineer A's point of view, that these objections that engineer B has raised, number one, he did not have complete understanding because his objection was based on news story. Number two, that is not his direct field. Number three, he has no experience, right? Number four, he did not have in-depth and detailed calculations, right? Number five, he did not consider all those elements, that there was a hospital and there was expansion plan. So you know uh, it seems the problem is on the part of engineer B. Then engineer B reasoned that the 48 hours supply in the reservoir would be more than adequate to take care of both the ice dams and in the river and the water supply failure, even if both occurred simultaneously. Once again, as engineer A's points, we read that engineer A said she had calculated her calculations on the basis of worst scenario, and this calculation that engineer B gives, that is based on average scenario. And again, the most important thing, that the engineer B does not have any background knowledge and any experience, and not even complete understanding. So this objection is on average level and has not kept important factors such as worst scenarios in mind. Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to week number 15, recorded lecture number 40. Well, in this lecture, we are going to have a look at another case study. We have already seen one in the last recorded lecture, and we will solve this case study apply ethical theories, logic from the case, and uh, PEC code of conduct. So let's begin with the case study. Now let us move towards ethical theories. What do ethical theories say about it? Number one, duty ethics. See, we should keep uh, the question in mind. The question was engineer B's behavior ethical or unethical? Duty ethics. So we shall be discussing engineer B because he raised the objection, rather I would say unnecessary objection on engineer A. So number one, duty ethics. Well, uh, even the basic primary duties would say do not put allegations on others, right? Even it's basic duty of an engineer to have command of his or her subject and to have complete understanding of the project or the topic on which he or she is giving opinion. In this case, engineer B didn't have that understanding. It's duty ethics not to put allegation on others without having any evidence or solid proofs. But engineer B very easily, placed allegations on, uh, rather challenged the honesty, integrity, and competence of engineer A, that shouldn't have been that much acceptable. So, according to duty ethics, engineer B failed to fulfill his duties. Number one, he shouldn't have believed on newspaper story that did not have complete details. Number two, he doesn't have experience in this field, so he should have been very careful. Number three, he, even if he had any objections, instead of writing it down and making it public and sending it to the common people, he should have contacted engineer A for clarifications. And if he had not received proper clarifications, maybe then he should have proceeded to the next step. Again, I won't say to this step. That was to me the worst scenario. And he should have also gone had in-depth understanding of the case, which he didn't. Then rights ethics, of course, of other fellow engineers' rights. It was right of engineer A not to be insulted, not to be questioned for her for her honesty. It's a right not to be questioned for her integrity and for her professional competence when there is no uh, evidence. In fact, these allegations were placed against engineer A, and it's every citizen's right not to be subjected to allegations without evidence. So, keeping that in mind, even right ethics would say that engineer uh, B violated engineer A's rights as an engineer, rights as a common citizen, and rights as a professional. Virtue ethics, as we know, virtue ethics focus more uh, on character of an individual. So someone with virtuous character would not place allegations on others without evidence, would not raise objections without having complete understanding. Obviously, after this case is proven wrong, that is going to place questions on the character of engineer B. So even virtue ethics doesn't say that place allegation on others, try to defame them, and so even virtue ethics uh, goes against engineer B's objection. Now PC Code Article 7, a member shall express an opinion of an engineering subject only when found on adequate knowledge, experience, and honest conviction. Almost three of them are violated. Knowledge, engineer B did not seem to have adequate knowledge, had no experience at all in water related projects, and though honest conviction is not that much clear, but we can say engineer B did not have enough evidence against engineer A, so he should have been very careful while placing all allegations. Well, according to IEEE, judgment software engineer shall maintain integrity and independence in their professional judgment. Of course, since this is not related to software, so I think this won't be applicable to a chemical engineer. Had it been a software engineer, so it would have been applicable. I have just mentioned it because we have covered IEEE, but IEEE code does not apply to a chemical engineer, so this is not that much applicable to uh, a chemical engineer. So now here uh, we had two options, whether engineer B was guilty or was not guilty, or engineer B was guilty. So my decision is engineer B was guilty, and there are a number of reasons, like point 1 to 10 are in against engineer B, then 12, 14, 15 to 19, almost all of them are against uh, engineer B and favor the point that engineer B was guilty. So this is how we reach this conclusion. And any professional should be careful before raising objections against other competent engineer, and especially when you do not have enough knowledge, enough experience, and enough evidence. So that is unethical and sometimes illegal, like if you do not have, when the matter is taken to court, to raise those objections. Anyhow, thank you.